Hello everybody, this is Mr. Rob and welcome back to another episode of the South Carolina Gamecocks Dynasty here on EA Sports College Football 25. And today we're going to go through Week 3, our FCS opponent this year, which is supposed to be Towson. Now usually I kind of do a highlight clip of this episode, but I didn't realize that my PlayStation Plus expired, so I couldn't go online and get the actual team. So we're just going to simulate the week and see what happens. If you're excited for this one, make sure you drop a like, you subscribe down below, especially if you want more Dynasty Mode content. As you can see right out the gate, we get our first recruit of the season this week, defensive end James Funk, a 4-star from Dothan, Alabama. So we get some good news in this episode to begin. Funk was a run-stopping defensive lineman that I liked and I was aggressive for very early in the cycle. You can see Jim, 85 block shed, 85 strength. He should be a great job, hopefully fixing this run deficit. Now we do beat Towson this week, 45-13, as we'll take a look at this stat line. Dante Reno, though, didn't play all that impressive. 46% completion, only one touchdown, 200 yards plus. Still not sold on him, as we had a good game in the run department. Russell had one catch. He also had 2 rushing touchdowns, which was interesting. But again, offense wasn't necessarily convincing. Here are your top stories this week. Dante Moore leads the Heisman approach so far over AJ Swan and Marcel Reed. Ja'Cory Brown had a great day for Central Florida and a big performance, 5 passing touchdowns. Big game this week in the ACC, Virginia Tech and Clemson, 2 top 15 opponents going at it, as well as UAB and LSU, a chance for the Blazers to show that they are legit. Here are your scores from Week 3. Marshall over James Madison in their Sun Belt opener. Tennessee gets back with a win over Western Michigan. They lost to North Carolina last week. Wake Forest over Northern Illinois. Arizona over Air Force. Mississippi State loses at home to Troy 20-0. They get blanked. It's trouble in Starkville. Rutgers goes down, also gets blanked by UCF. So the Rutgers, not another Cinderella season on the horizon. Ohio State rejoins the rankings with a win over Kent State. And Miami goes on the road and beats Notre Dame. Good win for the Hurricanes, who just smoked us. Appalachian State over Charlotte by 4. And then we see Coastal in a close one over Temple, who were riding high after beating Penn State, come crashing on the teal field. Houston over their rivals Rice. Vanderbilt knocks off NC State. The Wolfpack, not a good start for them. Texas barely survives UTSA. Something with these in-state smaller Texas schools giving the Longhorns some trouble. Michigan knocks off UTEP 20-0. Arkansas survives Memphis at home. Oklahoma takes care of business against New Mexico. UConn beats North Carolina in the Battle of Basketball Blue Buds, 24-21. We see Southern Miss beat Louisiana Tech at home, and then Penn State bounces back and they beat Buffalo, getting back in the win column. Texas State over North Texas 25-21. South Alabama over Ohio as they doubled them up. The other Gamecocks get the win. Jacksonville State over Georgia Southern, and then BYU in a close one knocks off Old Dominion on the road. In the Big Ten matchup, Purdue survives Wisconsin, not a good start for the Badgers, and then Ball State beats Arkansas State 24-21. Boise State, they get a big win at home against LSU as the Broncos try to righten the early ship as the Tigers go down. And then Illinois over Western Kentucky. We see Middle Tennessee State get an upset win on the road against Kansas. Virginia Tech wins the DMV battle as they beat Maryland in a low-scoring affair. Iowa State, after getting the Cy-Hawk Trophy, continues their win streak over West Virginia. Kansas State over Tulane. And we see UAB get the win over Louisiana, one of the big games from last week. Virginia knocks off Syracuse 34-17. Florida in the game of the week does beat Cal, so the Golden Bears go down in the swamp 38-17. Colorado, they stay undefeated. They knock off Northwestern on the road this year, 26-21. Excuse me, actually Colorado actually has a loss. Washington State beats Fresno State, so the Bulldogs get welcomed to the Pac-12 with a loss. The new look Pac-12 underway. Iowa over Toledo in a road game. UMass drops the home game against Eastern Michigan, still winless in the MAC. And then we see the Trojans survive Washington at home by 3. Minnesota still undefeated, 3-0. They beat UCLA, who is 0-3. Utah beats TCU on the road pretty convincingly. Then we see Oklahoma State over Texas Tech in a rivalry game that came down to the wire. Army, they knock off to Tulsa. Alabama swamps Florida State 52-38. Georgia dominates Louisville. I know Georgia's ranked 4, but in my opinion, they are the #1 team. All 3 of their wins have been shellackings. Ole Miss stays undefeated as well. They beat the Bulls 29-12. Cincinnati over Miami, Ohio in a close one by a point. San Diego State also loses their Pac-12 debut at home 24-10. And then Hawaii 4-0. They beat Arizona State. Here are your players of the week. Lucas Semsula of Wyoming had 2 sacks, 2 fumble recoveries. Then we saw Ja'Cory Brown's big day for Central Florida. Your SEC players of the week. First time on defense that is not a Gamecock is DJ Hicks with 3 sacks. And then Jeremiah Smith, 9 catches, $140 and 2 scores. Also a rushing touchdown for the Alabama receiver. Here's a look at the top 25 rankings. The top 4 to stay the same, but for the second week in a row, the number 5 team goes down. Cal falls all the way to 15. LSU with their big loss to the Boise State Broncos also go down. And we welcome Ohio State and Tennessee back into the rankings. Your big games this week, we saw Virginia Tech and Clemson, the big ACC showdown. UAB and LSU, a chance for the Blazers to show they were legit. And then 2 big Big 12 games. Central Florida goes on the road to face Deion Sanders and the Buffaloes. And number 18, Cincinnati will welcome the Utah Utes to town to cap off the top games of the Week 4 slate. We have a big game of our own. We host to number 9, Texas. And we'll get to see Arch Manning in the Longhorns for the first time in school history. We get to welcome them to Williams-Brice Stadium. Hopefully we do a little bit better this time than we did against Miami, but again, I have question marks about this offense. Dante Reno is still the starter according to Coach Rob, but he's got to have a big game at some point, especially against a team like Texas. You cannot start off slow like you get against Miami. Otherwise, Arch Manning and the Longhorns will put you in the dirt. I'm excited for that one to get to play Texas. Hope you are as well. If you enjoyed this content, make sure you drop a like and you subscribe down below, especially if you want more Dynasty Mode content. I know a shorter episode today, but we get through onto conference play. This is Mr. Rob, and I'll see you in the next one.